Okay, good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us today on the Delhi Africa Summit, where we discuss important issues in the oil and gas industry globally. So our topic of focus today is COVID-19 impact, problems, and prospects in liquefied petroleum gas sector. So from all indications, the outbreak of coronavirus pandemic has impacted the liquefied petroleum gas industry investment globally. So without wasting much of our time, I would like to introduce our guest for today. Okay, our guest for today who will be discussing this topic today is Ms. Alison Abbott. Ms. Alison Abbott is the Communications Director at the World Liquefied Petroleum Gas Association. She's also the supporter of exceptional energy. Good morning, Ms. Abbott, and thank you for joining us today on the Delhi Africa Summit.
Good morning, Mr. Odion, and good morning to everybody. It's a real pleasure to be here. I'm sorry I can't be in Nigeria. I've visited Nigeria a couple of times, and I think that, hopefully now we're getting used to doing these things over Zoom. I'd like to thank the Daily African for this opportunity. I know that you're a really good supporter of the work that we're doing, which I'll just tell you a little bit about before we get into the questions. Just so that, to put it in context, I'll tell you a little bit about the association. The World LPG Association is the global voice of the LPG industry. Now, we're based in Paris, in France. Like many people now, work remotely from the south of France. So this is where I'm calling from you from today. We are an association-driven, a membership-driven association. We have over 300 members in over 125 countries. We do many things. We have lots of focus areas. We focus on bio-LPG, on cooking, on marine, on safety. I head up the communications section, and we do a great deal of work helping promoting the benefits of LPG worldwide. So that's just to put a little bit in context of who we are and the work that we do. So I'll pass it back to you, Mr. Odion, because I know that you have some questions for me.
Okay, thank you very much, Ms. Alison. Okay, Ms. Alison, as a communications director, you've done so much in LPG globally. Can you tell us about it?
Yeah, I mean, what we do is we promote LPG on a global scale. So in terms of the work that I do, we're often invited to speak at conferences around the world. We're very, very good at communicating about LPG to the LPG industry. But what we need to do more of is do external communications to external stakeholders, which is why events like this are great, because it gives us a voice to reach beyond the people we normally don't meet. So we do a lot of work. At the moment, we do a lot of webinars. We do a lot of events like this. We're very active on social media. And obviously we have our website, Wlpga.org. And what we do is work very closely with my team to make sure that we promote as much news as we can, because some of the perceptions around LPG need to be battled against. So we know that we're a fossil fuel, we're a byproduct of oil and natural gas production. So you have LPG whether you kind of want it or not. So we promote using it in the safest and best way, because there's some incredible benefits, and it's really a transition fuel for the future.
Okay, thank you very much, Ms. Alison, for that elaborate answer. Okay, I'm pleased to inform everyone that today's event is being streamed live on our YouTube channel. So you can subscribe to our YouTube channels on the Daily to be a part of this event today. So, okay, a quick one, Ms. Alison. how has COVID-19 affected investment in the LPG globally?
Great question. And I know that just for the audience, we've had these questions in advance so that I was able to do some research to make sure that you get the best answers that we can give you. But from what we have read and seen, the pandemic hasn't had a real material effect. But as you're leading with this question, I haven't found that much data that shows a reduction in LPG investment in 2020. Now, there may be some deferred investment, particularly in the petchem sector, but otherwise, the LPG market has remained fairly robust throughout the pandemic. I think if we look at supply and demand that have just come out, it's showing that we're 2.5% down on consumption globally. Per segment, domestic was down 2.3%, but it was kept up because, we're working from home more, so we're cooking at home. We're not using the public transport as much, we haven't been. Petchem was down by 3%, but it was buoyed a little by the demand for medical packaging, and also gas, that's LPG as a transport fuel, was down 10%, but that's very similar to the actual gasoline market. So that sort of hopefully answers that question.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Ms. Allison. Okay, can you comment on, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, can you comment on the supply and demand for LPG internationally?
Yeah, sure. And this is great because every year we produce a document called the Statistical Review of Global LPG. And it's the most up-to-date LPG stats available, the most reliable and up-to-date. It's free to anybody who is a member of the Wlpga, but it's a very precious document and it costs about 4,000 British pounds to buy it. And we only released these statistics a couple of months ago. So we know, as I've mentioned, that 2020, because we're always a year behind with these stats, it was a tumultuous year with COVID, but the diverse use of LPG across the world contributed to its resilience. It was proven to be a resilient fuel. And our latest review shows that there has been consistent year-on-year growth in production and consumption, but it was just interrupted last year. The total consumption in 2020 stood at 317 million tonnes, which is a decline of about 2.6% from 2019. Supply was 329 million tonnes, a small decline of 1.4% compared with 2018. Now, the role of LPG as a clean cooking fuel and a feedstock was highlighted really last year. Both sectors did experience a small decline, but there were some large domestic markets, particularly India and Indonesia, which they saw continued upwards trends as the use of LPG for cooking persisted, because they had very, very, very strict lockdown. So both countries, India and Indonesia, saw a 5% growth. And there's been robust demand for chemical feedstock driven by strong markets for packaging and medical equipment. The longer term impact is harder to gauge. As economies now start to return to normality, the industry is really well placed to position itself as a supplier of this vital interim fuel. Efforts to achieve lower emissions from vehicles and to provide access to clean cooking in developing countries are likely to intensify, and LPG is still a very economically viable option. And autogas volumes declined by about 10% in 2020, but the number of autogas vehicles on the road increased by 5.9% to 29.2 million autogas vehicles. So hopefully that answers your question about demand.
Exactly. Thank you very much. Okay. What factors still encourage the use of dirty domestic fuels, including kerosene and firewood in Africa?
Yeah, and this is something that I've seen personally at hand. I think it's something that one of the really big pushes that we make in our communications and the advocacy work that we do is it's a lifesaver. If the instant you start bringing LPG into a community or into a home, it immediately impacts the quality of life. But in terms of what you were asking, what factors encourage the use of dirty domestic fuels, there's a number of elements that are very clear, right? Not just in Africa, actually, not in any particular order. But first of all, let's talk about affordability. Where you're in the developing world, where there's very poor people, they don't have cash to spend on anything. These dirty fuels are cheap, so they go for that cheaper option. It's cheaper to get wood that's maybe free than to go and actually invest in LPG. Also, secondly, a lack of supply. People may have the money, but LPG just isn't available. If you're in the middle of Nigeria and want to cook, you may want to cook on LPG, but you just don't have access to it. So that's a supply issue. A third reason is lack of awareness of the harm that cooking with dirty fuels can do to you. So it's a question of education, and that's the responsibility of our industry. People probably don't realize that they can die early from cooking with dirty fuels. And people maybe don't value their own health. I think when you're really, really young, if somebody says, oh, you can live for another 5 years, when you're young, you don't really think like that. I think it's like when people start talking about planning for your retirement, when you're young, you think, no, it's a long way off. So there's an education and a lack of awareness of the harm. The other thing is tradition. You know, people, we're creatures of habit and reluctant to change. They may have always cooked with wood, continue to do so. And it can be hard to persuade people to change. And Africa is absolutely not alone in this. And it's true in many parts of the world, such as Southeast Asia. And we travel extensively to see what's happening in these countries, and it helps us do our work. But I think this is a good opportunity to mention a campaign that we've run called Cooking for Life. And maybe some of the people on this call may have heard of this, but it's the World Health Organization announced in 2012, some years ago, they doubled the numbers of people who are dying from cooking with dirty fuels and the damage that's causing them, indoor air pollution. They doubled it to 4.3 million. 4.3 million people die a year from cooking with dirty fuels. That's more than AIDS, malaria, and TB combined. So it's a huge, huge problem. So these are avoidable health risks, and it's mostly women and children who are at risk here because they're the ones that go out to actually collect the wood. And, so we launched this campaign to facilitate the transition. It's an advocacy campaign to convert a billion people to cooking with LPG by 2030. And we're actually, when you look at some of the numbers that you see in big countries like India and Indonesia, we're on target. We're on target to convert that billion people. So it's a challenge for us, but yeah, there are those 4 factors that I think still encourage cooking with firewood and kerosene.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Allison, for that elaborate explanation. So for our participants, in case you have questions, contributions, comments, please kindly send them to our chat box, and Ms. Allison will do justice to them. Okay, Ms. Allison, what major issues and problems abound in the sector, and how do you think these problems and issues can be tackled?
I think this is a great question, and this is what we're all about. And I think probably the major issue is safety. It's connected to a lack of regulations, and it's all about advocacy with governments. Governments have to have clear regulations on how to manage the entire LPG supply chain. That's from the import terminal to the actual point of use. It's not just about the cylinder that we all have in our kitchens, but it's about bulk transport, handling, managing the import facility, road transport, safety at the filling plant itself, with the storage, fire protection around the plant, educating drivers, and regulations must be defined. And companies who market LPG must be licensed. You can't just have companies starting up with no control. And it's not enough to have regulation. The regulations must be enforced. Otherwise, it means nothing. So this means you have to do audits, you have to do spot checks, the regulator needs to be able to withdraw a license if people are not complying. If they're not playing the game, it could cause a problem. It has been an issue, and then again, if licenses are withdrawn, it's a warning to others who don't comply, because compliance and safety are critical. It has been an issue in Africa, where there are examples of no clear playing field regarding regulations. So really established companies don't want to risk jeopardizing their own powerful brand if it's not being regulated. So, and apart from controlling the industry, the consumer needs to be trained as well. They need to be trained on how to use gas in the correct way. And it goes back to what I've already mentioned about education. How do we educate and inform people if, for example, they can't read? If they have no idea how to work a cylinder, they need fundamental education. And how do we tackle this? So we have to educate governments on what their role is. We need to have good cooperation between the public and private sector so that the companies, the distributors work with government. For example, you need to look at how to educate people. In South Africa, your neighbours in South Africa, we work very closely with the association there, and they do a lot of work using pictograms and the use of radio for people who may not have internet connections or have telephones. So they have that visual aids. I'd like to just mention the role of trade associations such as ours. We're the global association, so we obviously manage the world, which is a challenge in itself, but we have 30 fellow associations who work with us, who are members of ours. And there are 30 fellow trade associations from around the world, like South Africa, the US, many countries in Asia, many countries in Europe and Latin America. And they work, the power that they have is that they work with their local governments to help with this regulatory issues. But if you leave everything up to chance, you'll have a lot of problems. So it's all about working with government and getting those regulations. And I think that's how major issues can be approached and solved.
Okay, so any advice for stakeholders such as investors and regulators?
Well, this is a really broad question. For what we see that the future of LPG is in Africa. We're convinced of this, and increasingly so. So for investors, Africa we see is a great opportunity. And why? Because it's a vast continent with somewhere little infrastructure, lots of people, a growing population, and also a young population. And young people are ready to embrace new ways of using energy and new technologies. You can't bring natural gas to many parts of Africa because the pipeline cost would be too high. So you need a distributed system. So even there are opportunities for electrical mini grids that can run with LPG, but also you can take LPG anywhere. That's one of the key benefits. It's utterly portable. So for investors, we can say, this transition fuel, you can bring LPG to anywhere, wherever. For example, it's like Coca-Cola. We say, you get Coca-Cola all over the world, and Coca-Cola, what is it? It's energy in a tin, a bit like LPG is energy in a tin. But also, in the coming 30 years, natural gas and oil are likely to be quite stable. And as LPG is a byproduct of the production, so LPG production will not decline. But in the large consuming regions of the world, like America and Asia, there will be an increasing switch towards biofuels. So there will be a lot of LPG available, and probably the price may drop, so it'll become even more competitive. So again, for investors, this is another option, another idea why Africa is important. For regulators, as I mentioned, they're vital to ensure the market grows. They need to regulate, they need to enforce regulations, otherwise there may not be an industry for them to regulate. But regulators need to listen to the industry and work with it. And then for consumers, advice for consumers, well, LPG is a low carbon, clean burning, healthy fuel. We call it an exceptional energy. So for consumers, it's the healthy choice. Young consumers are probably more aware of climate change and engaged in the climate debate. So youth are more aware of the health issues and are keen to avoid these negative health impacts. So they should support using LPG as a clean and healthy fuel. So I think that's the advice for stakeholders, for consumers, regulators, and investors.
Okay, thank you very much, Ms. Allison. Okay, after this last question, we would like to play the video. So I hope it's ready, Ms. Allison.
Yeah, we have a video to show you. It's about, I'll just tell you what it's about, because we organise many events, and we organise the flagship event that we organise is the World LPG Forum, and it's LPG Week. It's taking place in Dubai in December, and I thought that you might like to see this. You'll just have to bear with me while I share my screen and launch the video. So I have to put my
Okay, after this, let that be after this question, please.
Okay.
Okay, so in what ways have the association been encouraging women participation in the sector?
Well, this is just fantastic, and this is something that I'm really passionate about, is diversity in our industry. And we recognize that women are really underrepresented in our industry. And as the global association, that the World LPG Association was really well placed to do something about it. And I've been in this industry for over 10 years. And when I first started, I would go and talk at events, and I would often be the only woman talking. And we realized that women, you know, we're not in the minority. We're not a minority, and we can offer a lot business-wise. It's a very serious issue. So we launched this network, and I think it's great to see a lot of ladies on this call, and I think you may be aware of this, called Women in LPG. And we launched this in 2015, and I'm really, really proud to say that I managed this on a global scale. It's a network for women. We have 3 pillars of objectives, and we do run it as a business. It's a serious concern, and it's a big part of the work we do. Our objectives are, number 1, to support and retain women who are already in our industry. It's really important that women feel that they have a voice, that they have somebody that they can talk to and can help. Secondly, is promoting the network in the industry, so that the industry itself is aware of it and promotes it within their own companies, because that's really important. And thirdly, in the longer term, to educate and attract women to our industry, and that's something that's done at kind of a local level. We produce every year we produce an action plan with all our activities for the year. So we have some great opportunities. I think you're on mute. I think I'll carry on, because I think that, oh, you're there.
Okay, sorry. Please, Ma, you can go ahead and share the video.
Okay, bear with me one second while I launch this. I need you to, I have disabled participants screen sharing, so if you could allow me to share my screen, please.
You can do that now.
Okay, that's great. I am going to launch this video. I hope that you can see this and hear it. See it. It starts again. There you go. Okay.
Okay. That was a very good one. Okay, so I will now hand it over to my co-moderator, Miss Allison, to ask a few other questions.
Thank you.
Hi everybody, good morning.
Hello, Alison.
Yes, thank you for your responses so far. They've been really enlightening. So if you're just joining in, this is the Daily Africa Summit, and today we're speaking on issues relating to the women in LPG sector. So this session is being live streamed on YouTube. The link is in the comment section. You could also check out our website in the comment section as well. So real quickly, Mr. Anderson, could you provide us details of the Women in Nigerian LPG project programs in the medium and long term?
Yeah, sure. This is Women in LPG is a network. So it's interacting with women and men. It's really important that men are part of this as well. This is not a network that is against women. This is against men. We need the support of men, and we do have a lot of men who join our meetings. So one of the key ways that we do our work is via national chapters, and these chapters enable the network to develop in country on a much wider scale by engaging with women who may not normally be able to attend some of the meetings that we organise. And national chapters also enable specific regional issues to be addressed. So we have 7 national chapters in the USA, in Colombia, South Africa, in Myanmar, in Kenya, in India, and of course in Nigeria. Each chapter works in very different ways and encourages local activities. And I know that Joy Shan, who unfortunately isn't here today, but she manages the Nigeria National Chapter, and they do a fantastic job. They're very structured. They have regular meetings. They do quite a lot of educational work. So there's a lot being done in Nigeria. And normally I travel a lot, and I would go to each of these countries each year to support them and hold meetings. But obviously we haven't been able to. But we do a lot of other initiatives as well. For example, as I mentioned, I often speak at events around the world where I'm the only woman. So we've put together a database of women speakers that we share with conference organisers to help change this. And they're women who are able to speak about certain topics. And I think that helps put women on stage. We also, as we can't travel at the moment, although it's opening up a little bit, we do a lot more webinars. And the next Women in LPG webinar will be on the 18th of November. So mark your diaries to that. We'd love to see you there, 18th of November. We will be sending out the details soon.
Right, thank you very much. So next question, what is the Wlpga doing to help encourage young people to join the industry? Real briefly, please.
So for young people, well, as well as encouraging, I just wanted to mention as well, we had for the We have also ambassadors for the women in LPG, and we have role models, and I can answer questions about those. And we also have Woman of the Year Award and the Young Woman of the Year Award, which we launched a couple of years ago, and that gives a lot of visibility to sort of our future. Woman of the Year is sort of established women, and the Young Woman of the Year is for women under the age of 35 who are starting out in their career here. So it's to acknowledge them. But turning to youth, again, it's a really important sector of our community. And we wanted to do something really concrete to encourage young talent. So this year, this is very, very new, very exciting. We launched the Wlpga Youth Council, and we launched it in May. Now, the Youth Council, the Wlpga is governed by a body called our Industry Council. That's the 40 top companies in our membership. And they are sort of the strategic body that meet 3 times a year to look at the work that we're doing. We invited each of those 40 companies to nominate.
Hi, thank you for joining back in. Sorry about that. So we'll just move on to the next question. So, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So what objectives inform the institution of Women in Nigeria LPG Women of the Year Award?
So the Woman of the Year Award, we launched in 2019, and I did sort of touch on it. And I will go back to the question about youth as well later, because we feel that women need to be recognised. So we launched in 2019. And in 2020, we added to the award for Young Woman of the Year Award, because we realised that it wasn't really a level playing field, because we'd got women who were very well established in the industry, who had got great applications, and younger women who were just starting. So we launched this every May, and we announced the winners. We go through a very specific process. And we closed it just the other week, and we will announce the winners in the webinar on the 18th of November. Now, the winners get a lot of attention, and I think it's a really good opportunity to highlight women. Then what we also do is we write a role model, we interview them, and they get it. It's a really rewarding process.
All right, thank you very much. Do you want to go back on the question about the youth?
Yeah, if you don't mind, because we got a little cut off, and I think it's really, really important. And I think I was just explaining that we're governed by this body called our Industry Council, and they sort of give us the sort of the lead on this in terms of where our industry is going. So we gave them the opportunity to nominate a young man and a young woman under the age of 35 to create this youth council. It was only in May that it was formed, but it's really to identify emerging leaders of our industry and bring the perspectives of youth to our industry, because that's so important. So they're really excited group. There's about 60 people in this group. It's quite well managed. It's led by 2 elected co-chairs, and they're responsible for ensuring that the Youth Council actually does some work, and that it functions properly. They meet once a month. In fact, the meeting is this afternoon. They discuss the issues. They're very, very active. It's great to see these meetings that they're so energetic. They've got 4 work streams that they're focusing on. That's safety, as we've mentioned a lot in this meeting, sustainability, recruitment, and awareness. And they're focusing on these 4 areas at the moment. So it's very early days, and thank you for the opportunity to talk about that, because I think it's important for our industry that we see that there's a future there, and there are young people who want to join the industry as well. We have to make it attractive. So yeah, thank you for that opportunity.
Right, thank you very much. So how many ambassadors do you have, and what does it take to become one?
Well, so this is going back to the Women in LPG network, and our ambassadors are really important. The ambassadors are individuals or companies, high-level people who simply pledge to support the network and lend their image to our network. So we've got 23 ambassadors. It doesn't cost anything. They don't really do anything. They just say, yes, I agree to support. They go on our website. If you go to wlpga.org, our website, and look for Women in LPG, you can see all our ambassadors. It's simple, but it's really effective. We've got some thank you. Thanks, Alison. It's quite, it is quite a good, we've got kind of government people, and so it's a really great initiative, the ambassadors.
Right, thanks. That's really helpful. I do hope to become one of the ambassadors really soon. Can you comment on your role model?
Yeah, role models are really important. We all need role models, don't we? People who've done that and been there and done that and been successful. And we need these role models to motivate ourselves and encourage us all to succeed. That's so important. And there are many, many successful women around the world in our industry that aren't given a voice. So we're not great as women. We're not always great about shouting about it. So what we do is we interview key women in our industry, and we just write a role model profile. It's quite simple. There are loads of them on the website that Alison very kindly sent you the link to. And they're women from all around the world who just share their stories and give tips and advice. So role models, and we're always looking for new role models. It's really important for us.
Great, thanks. Thank you very much. So are there any important upcoming events you want to let us know about?
Yeah, and you've already seen the video for the LPG week. Of course, we've got our Women in LPG webinar on the 18th of November, but every year we organise the biggest LPG event in the world, and it's called LPG Week. It's the flagship event for the industry, and it focuses on pretty much everything, but also we'll have side events. There's a lot going on. There's a big exhibition. There's a big sort of seminar. We usually get a couple of thousand people attending this. We also have side events that focus on autogas, sustainable development, diversity, innovation, and technology. So there's a lot going around. Now the event travels around the world. The last time we held it live, it was in Amsterdam. Before that, we were in Houston. Last year, we had to do it remotely, of course, but this year it's going to be in Dubai. It starts on the 1st of December, and if anybody is able to come, we would be delighted to see you.
Right, thank you very much. So for those that just happen to join in, there's a question: is the women in LPG open to everybody? And if it is, how do people join in?
Yeah, it's open to everybody, and I would encourage everyone on this call to drop me a note, and I will make sure that you're registered. And also, Joy, who manages the Nigeria chapter, I know that she would like to hear from you as well. I mean, if I can, in the chat, I'm going to put my email, and if you can, excuse my hands. This is my email. Please just drop me a line, and all I do is I need your contact details. It's very simple. I add you to our database, and you will start receiving our newsletters. But also, I would add you to I'd get you in touch with Joy Cheyenne, who manages the Nigeria chapter, because I know that she would like to hear from you. It's free. It doesn't cost anything. It's a network to support women, and I really encourage you all to get involved.
Thank you very much for that. So because of the break we had, many people didn't get to join in early to see the video, so we'll just play one more time in a few seconds actually. Okay, thank you very much for this session. And any closing remarks?
Only to say again, thank you to Mr. Odion, thank you to Alison. It's great to see another Alison. I think that's super. And a huge thank you to the Daily African for all the support. I hope that you've enjoyed this. I hope that I've been able to enlighten you a little bit about the industry, but also about the importance of acting on diversity. So yeah, just thank you. And if anyone has any questions now, or shoot me an email, I'd be delighted to work. And I look forward to coming back to Nigeria.
I'm looking forward to have you back in Nigeria as well. Thank you so much for this session. Just to remind everybody, this session was live streamed on YouTube, so you can go back to the recordings, make references, the link to the, you can visit our website at thedaily-energy.com. You'll be seeing updates on oil, gas, and energy related news. The Women in LPG webinar will hold on the 15th of November, so we're looking forward to that. Thank you, Alison, for this session. Thank you all for joining in. And I hope that we've all learned a lot. I've learned a lot. I hope that everybody else has been impacted by the session as well. So thank you all for joining in. Have a great weekend.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.